So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where all of Southeast Asia is united under one country. Now I understand that this technically isn't all of Southeast Asia because Indonesia is usually included in that group, but for the sake of making this scenario a little bit more entertaining, we're going to be leaving Indonesia out and just uniting the rest of Southeast Asia. So we have countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Myanmar. All of these countries will be under one flag, and we'll be taking a look at how this new country will interact with the map around it. But for now, if you guys do enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. As always, the support is greatly appreciated. Make sure to check out the limited edition 200,000 subscriber merchandise that will be going away permanently after December 31st. So if you want to grab something, I highly recommend you do before it's gone. Make sure to also check out the channel memberships to get early access to each and every single one of our videos, as well as the Discord server, which has a pretty cool mock government going on. So all those things are linked down in the description below. But for now, let's go ahead and jump straight into this video. So first of all, of course, we have to unite all of these countries under one. So there we go. All nations are now united. And we also have to give this country a brand new capital city, probably somewhere neutral, but also somewhere that is somewhat central to the country. And I think honestly, without it being a former capital city, we're going to have to put the capital right down here in the south of Vietnam. But now that we have this country here, we had to start considering what their actions would be. Now on this channel, we usually do war scenarios and stuff like that. So more likely than not, this country will turn expansionist and start to annex other countries. So for their first action as an independent country down here in the southeast, they will be declaring war on Papua New Guinea. Now once again, we usually do war scenarios and stuff like that around here, so most of this video will be them just attacking other countries. I know that realistically, if this country somehow united together, they wouldn't really go expansionist. They probably wouldn't attack any other country, but for the sake of your entertainment, they will now be bloodthirsty expansionist. Anyway though, the Southeast Asian Navy is easily able to land in Papua New Guinea, and they are able to take out the entirety of this island as well as all of the islands around it. And in terms of like military power, this country would be fairly strong, definitely getting towards the top 20. I think they would probably be within the top 20, but definitely not like a great power just yet. Anyway, in the peace treaty, we see that Southeast Asia will actually not fully annex all of New Guinea. Instead, they'll just make them into a simple puppet state, and now they can refocus on a different country. However, where are they gonna go? Indonesia is very strong, as well as Australia, China, the Koreas, Japan, and India. So that is really going to limit the Southeast Asian country here because there isn't a lot of places for them to expand. And more likely than not, their ultimate goal is to become a regional / great power in order to compete with these other major powers around them. So they're going to have to get creative, and they're going to have to use their navy once again because they're going to be going to war with Sri Lanka. India, as well as China, would probably have something to say about the invasion of Sri Lanka by Southeast Asia, but they will not get involved militarily. Instead, they'll probably indirectly get involved militarily by sending Sri Lanka equipment and stuff like that. Basically, India doesn't want Southeast Asia to get any more influence or any closer to their border than they already are. And China and Sri Lanka, I believe, are allies in real life, so there's a little bit more of a connection there. But that doesn't really matter because Sri Lanka will go ahead and fall over to Southeast Asian forces. And in this peace treaty, we actually see full annexation rather than Sri Lanka being made into a puppet state. So the Southeast Asian country now expands right down to the southernmost tip of India, probably making them feel a little bit uncomfortable. Now, as far as the actual relations that this country would have with the other nations around it, it is very complicated. First of all, you have countries like Vietnam and the Philippines that are in this country that are not friends of China. Then you have Myanmar, you have Laos, and you have Cambodia, who are friends of China. Similar patterns can also be found in India, so it's really kind of challenging to determine who these guys would align with. But ultimately, this country will start to lean towards China rather than India. Now, once again, their goal is to ultimately become a great power of their own and not rely on either of these countries. But for now, since they are only a regional power, they need to get an ally that is strong. So they start to improve their relations with China, who probably wasn't too happy about Sri Lanka, but you know, that's in the past now. Anyway, Southeast Asia's next target is going to be the nation of Bangladesh. This is undoubtedly their biggest challenge so far. You know, Bangladesh is a very populated country, a very densely populated country of around 200 million, I believe. Okay, 173 million, but getting up and very close to that number. But nonetheless, they'll use that population to their advantage. They'll build a very large military, not a super great military, but one that has a lot of manpower in it. And with that, they will be able to take over the capital city of Bangladesh and slowly but surely begin to work against the Bangladesh military. Over the course of a few months, we have the Red Team forces spreading out across this nation, securing more and more important areas such as the southernmost coast, cutting them off from the ocean. And after a few more military pockets are separated and the civilians begin to call for surrender, the government will do just that as Bangladesh surrenders over to the Red Team. And we can now take a look at the peace treaty between Southeast Asia and Bangladesh. And in this peace treaty, we see that Bangladesh is well, they're next, but whew, that does not look good. This is a horrible border. This is a horrible video. But, you know, we're going to have to stick with this for a little bit because I don't think that Southeast Asia can take on India just yet. You know, India might be a little bit stronger than they are. You know, just a theory by me. A mapping theory. More so of a geopolitical theory. Anyway, Southeast Asia has ran out of countries to invade. They no longer border any weak countries. All they have is India, the remainder of Bangladesh, which they cannot go to war with legally, and Indonesia. Oh, and also China, but, you know, they're trying to be friends with them. So, like, there's not a lot of places to go. You can't go to Taiwan because then China would get mad at you. Probably don't want to come down here to East Timor because then Australia would be mad at you. So let's begin to colonize islands in the Pacific. No, I wasn't talking to you. This would also probably piss Australia off, but what are they going to do about it? They're Australian. Okay, actually, there's a lot of things that Australia could do. There's like a lot of evil creatures down here that could do a lot of damage. So I don't suggest invading Australia. Definitely don't make them mad. So for the sake of being able to make Southeast Asia do something, we have them forming an official alliance with the Chinese Communist Party, also known as the People's Republic of China, also known as China. You're also known as China, but for the sake of my social credit score, you don't exist. Here, look, I promise, that was just a joke. I don't mean it. Look, China will be forcibly retaking the land that rightfully belongs to them. Of course, you know, Chinese Taipei already under the control of the PRC, but we just had to forcibly retake it, you know, because technically, you know, they're not, but they definitely are, so don't dock my points, please. Yeah, we'll go ahead and say that China and Southeast Asia work together to take on Taiwan, and that would probably cause a civil war within this thing because the Philippines would not be on board with doing that. That would be their worst nightmare. And also, you know, these guys up here probably wouldn't be too happy about it. But hey, order is restored. Taiwan is now once again a part of China. And as a token of their friendship, China will now be helping out Southeast Asia take on their next country, which also just so happens to be one of the strongest countries in the world, as well as Indonesia. So a lot of Southeast Asian forces, as well as a ton of Chinese forces, will now come down here to the Malaysian areas. They will first focus on capturing the strategic island of Borneo. Of course, this is one of the larger islands of Indonesia, or more so one of the larger islands in this region. But Indonesia has the largest claim over it, so getting all of this under their control would be very useful for any more naval landings that they do in the future. So Filipino and Chinese forces will just spread across the island. Indonesia does not have the manpower to deal with this war. Now, of course, they are one of the most populated countries in the world. I think they are at number 4, if I'm not mistaken, right behind the United States, but getting very close. Anyway, the red team will now completely occupy all of Borneo. Now, I know some of you guys might be saying, this guy is so stupid. He doesn't, like, pay attention to geography. Yeah, you're right. I am stupid. And also don't know the geography of Borneo. So I'm sorry. I'm going to make an assumption that it is very tropical. Sorry that I don't know about the existence of Mount Nowhere. But with Borneo now under solid red team control, they can now focus on taking out other parts of Indonesia. But more likely than not, they'll focus their forces over here in Sumatra. This is another one of those large islands in the island chain that Indonesia lays claim over. But Chinese and Southeast Asian forces will primarily focus their forces on capturing all of the north, taking out this major city up here, and from there they'll work around and capture the rest of the north of the island. Using their more superior navy to their advantage, they will now begin to move down said island, now going down to this major city and capturing it. And all in all, Indonesian forces will be forced to retreat from Sumatra as it comes under full red team control. The red team, as well as China's next move, is to take out the capital city of Indonesia. So the red team's navies will now do drive-bys of the island of Java, blowing up all major cities and the capital city, totally only targeting the military infrastructure and definitely not accidentally hitting any civilian infrastructure. That would be really bad. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but you know, when you're blowing up cities, it can happen, but it's definitely not happening here. Trust me, it's happening here. Anyway, the red team will now land over here and they'll be able to take out the capital city of Jakarta. This major city also goes bye-bye, and with the boat drive-bys intensifying, they will now be able to land over here, take this major city as well as the rest of the island of Jakarta. Nope, Java. So yeah, I do keep getting them mixed up. And from there, Indonesia will surrender, even though they still have a lot of islands over here. The red team would not be interested in island hopping across all of these because there's a lot, but also Indonesia doesn't really have much of anything else for them other than this major city here, which is conveniently placed in the ocean. They could go after East Timor, but they don't want to lose too much manpower, you know, that would probably lose them about 500,000 troops. So honestly, a waste of manpower there. But let's go ahead and take a look at the peace treaty between China, Southeast Asia, and Indonesia. And in this peace treaty, we see that Southeast Asia becomes a little bit more Southeast Asian. More so, Borneo, Sumatra, and this island over here are all annexed by Southeast Asia, so they now officially join the country of, once again, Southeast Asia. And then as for the rest of Indonesia, they are actually made into a Chinese puppet rather than a Southeast Asian puppet, so get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. Also, East Timor was spared. You know, you want to make sure you don't make them mad, because that would be very bad if that happened. So we'll leave this region alone. You know, Australia's probably very scared right now, but they do have a ton of allies over here who are also probably not liking the fact that this is occurring, but what can you do? You know, you're not relevant in this video, so screw off. No one likes you. Go away. Actually, you know what? Yeah, screw it. They don't even get sunk in the ocean. They just get, like, voided. They're deleted from existence. They're just not here. They're not underwater. They're just gone. Vaporized. Anyway, for our final event of this video, Southeast Asia will be declaring war on Bangla India. Bangla India? Okay, yeah, so in the time that Indonesia was being invaded, Bangladesh actually united over with India, but now this has just occurred. And I do want to iterate that this is more so of a jumping of India, not just a war. Yeah, everyone's here. Everyone's involved. All of India's ops, which we know are Pakistan, China, and Southeast Asia, as well as China's allies, you know, Afghanistan, you gotta put apostrophes around that, but Kyrgyzstan and North Korea also joined the war. Southeast Asia will make the first move, making a landing in the southernmost point of India, and they'll immediately capture this major city here. Now, why would India allow that to happen? Oh, I don't know, maybe because they're being invaded on all sides. Yeah, Nepal and Bhutan just joined the war. This is the biggest gangbang of all time. And no, India would not win this war, contrary to popular belief. So, I'll spare you the details, but India does go bye-bye eventually. And the Red Coalition wipes out this country in a matter of a few years. Now, it did just occur in a few seconds. You know, usually when I do big wars, they take a couple of minutes, you know, usually like 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. This war was over before it even started. I'm going to estimate that war was approximately a minute long. Either way, though, the result would have been the same, so let's go ahead and take a look at this peace treaty. And in this treaty here, we can see how India is divided up. Now, they retain a lot of their central land, but everything else is long gone. First of all, China will be annexing some of the land that was over here, so they get all that. I do believe they have a claim over that in real life. Our main character, Southeast Asia, will be annexing all of the remainder of Bangladesh, as well as some of the easternmost regions of India, these islands down here, and the southernmost regions of India. Pakistan will get a lot of land, just, you know, a bunch of the west. And Nepal will propose the Kashmir solution. It is accepted by the members of the peace treaty, and they become this: Kashmir and Nepal. No longer do we have border disputes over here. Nope, it's just Nepal now. Get over it. Crimea River, but it's now Nepali. Anyway, that will actually do it for today's video on what if Southeast Asia united. Now, I know this was not a serious video. Sometimes, you know, you just gotta throw out a video like this because you don't have time to record much more. That's right, I'm on a time limit for this video. I hate being on time limits because it makes me do things like this. But if you guys did have fun with this video, if you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated as always, and if you want to show even further support, make sure to also check out the limited edition 200,000 subscriber merchandise. We hit that milestone back in October, but we're still selling the limited edition merchandise for it up until December 31st. That is the end of this month. You know, that is in around 28 days. And after it's gone, it's gone. It's never coming back. So if you do want to grab something before it's gone, I highly recommend that you get the 200K edition merchandise. There's also Wixo merchandise. That isn't going anywhere, but the 200K stuff is. So if you want to say that you were here, say you were a part of this event, I highly recommend, once again, that you grab something. If not, that's cool as well. You know, that's fine. But also, you can check out the Discord server linked in the description below. We have a pretty cool mock government going on over there. We just had elections, and those elections were very interesting. The Prime Minister only won by 1 vote in a runoff election. So we actually had 2 major elections, and the second one decided it, and the Prime Minister that was elected only won by 1 vote out of 88 votes casted, I believe. Honestly, we could use even more people for that mock government. You know, we have a lot, but we don't have enough to add a bunch of new and entertaining features. So if you're interested in mock governments and stuff like that, you know, role plays kind of, I would highly recommend joining the Discord server and checking that out. Link to it in the description. Also, link down there is the merchandise, which can also be found at AdizzMerch.com. And finally, channel memberships. You already know what they do. I said them at the beginning of the video. Description has very cool stuff in it. Check it out. Anyway, though, once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave your input and suggestions down in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one. And of course, thank you to all our super fans. This includes Andrew Truno, Apex, Dex Lendy, Sue, Shifty Mapping, Beast the Mapper, Omega the YouTuber, Opie the Bopie, Euroball, Wizo, Rad is totally my Terminator, name. See what I do, AdizzPro, I ain't lying, CTG on Nevada Garbage Trucks, Green France Mapping, Ball Mapping, Ozgeo, a Norwegian, Augusto, Pablo Sigma Cat, GNR95, Zalance, Lizardtane, and Hammer Toad 45. Once again, thank you guys.